Welcome, lovely, to Bedtime Stories with me, Heather B., where I bring you some of my life stories told in a slightly fictional, relaxing, wind-down sort of way. So settle in and get ready to relax. Tonight's story will make you feel right at home. It is called The First Big Rain. The BWells had heard all about Costa Rica's rainy season. They imagined gentle afternoon showers. They imagined puddles. They imagined needing an umbrella everywhere they went. They did not imagine what was coming. When they arrived in late July, it was the middle of wet season. While it was more humid than they were used to back home, it didn't appear very wet to them at all, especially having come from Bay Area. So far, they had only observed one slight afternoon drizzle and thought, easy peasy. Well, as you can imagine, when the BWells first arrived and were given an overwhelming amount of information and facts about their new home, and while they tried to take it all in, not everything stuck. Things like how often to clean the gutters, the air conditioning filters, and the septic tank. What do we do with a septic tank? Yuck. But the one thing they made sure to take careful note of was the information for a trusted local handyman who was familiar with the home and recommended by the previous owners. The thing was that this home was brand new. It was just finished that spring, so they weren't really worried about anything going wrong quite yet, but it's good to have the information just in case. As July rolled into August, the BWells started to get to know their new home. Which grocery store had the best this or the best price for that? What essential items did they forget to bring that they need to replace right away? Thankfully, Costa Rica had its very own Wally Martins and Costa Coco, just like home, so they didn't feel completely separated from everything they knew. When September arrived and their daughter stepped into the last few months of their fourth grade year, the rain really started to fall. Those first few rains were exciting, roaring thunder that shook the cement walls, brilliant flashes of lightning shooting across the sky. Best of all, the rains cooled the air enough to make the mornings bearable for an outdoor workout or a nice, calming reflection with tea. And then it happened. Every new homeowner's fear. They had sprung a leak. But how could it be? The house was brand new. In their daughter's room at the far corner, the roof started to darken with a wet stain. Of all the rooms, why did it have to be their little girl's room? First thing the next morning, they attempted to message the handyman, Chapo, in Spanish. They sent pictures of the wet ceiling and made good use of their favorite translator app. When he finally messaged them back, it was a voice message in Espanol, and they could only make out a few words. Lunes, próximo, por la mañana. It wasn't much, but it was all they needed to hear. Luckily, there were no more storms before Monday arrived, and the ceiling dried without staining. So far, their new home was holding its pristine beauty. When Monday morning finally arrived, a truck appeared and a small, stocky Costa Rican man stepped out. He had a big smile and a friendly demeanor. The BWells showed him to the location, and he retrieved his ladder to survey the roof. When he came down, he mentioned that some of the tornillos, screws, were rusted and loose. We discussed cleaning the gutters to help the water drain properly, and he set to work on los tornillos. Just a few days after Chapo completed the fixes to the roof, we had another big rain, and the roof held. The family was ecstatic. However, just as one problem was solved, another one appeared. Later that night, they noticed water pooling under the hall closet door. As Mom opened the door, she saw water dripping down the back wall of the closet and filling shelf by shelf with pooling water. This was no small leak in the ceiling. This was rain inside the house. Now, it should be mentioned that their beautiful new home had this very cool feature. It is one of the reasons they bought the house in the first place. That feature was an indoor atrium area with a sand patch full of real plants and decorative rocks with a skylight overhead. The closet with the leak shared a wall with this same atrium. It was time to contact Chapo again. This included another set of photos, a translation app, and a few attempts back and forth. They eventually agreed on a new day and time, and the BWells held their breath with every gray cloud in the sky. Finally, Chapo arrived, and after another trip across the roof, he discovered that the two raised triangles on either side of the atrium were made of porous material in need of covering. After many trips to the hardware store and an entire day of work, Chapo was the hero that saved the day. The very next day, the BWells experienced the biggest rain of all, and thankfully everything held. There were no more leaks. They had finally fortified their new roof. That evening, the family sat together, listening to the rain on the roof. Instead of worrying, they smiled. Their home sounded strong again, and they felt safer knowing that when they were in a pinch, their trusty superhero Chapo will be there to save the day.